So you can have money but no time. You can have time and no money. You can have money and time and no friends, no social network. Wealth is no fun if you can't share it with somebody.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
Welcome to the Dream Big and Think Different podcast, where we inspire, impact, and empower.
Progress is impossible if you always do things the way you have always done things.
It's time to dream big. Here's your host, Dr. Sachin Maskey.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dream Big and Think Different podcast, where our mission is to inspire, impact, and empower millions of lives. I'm your host, Dr. Sachin Maskey, and today we have a very special guest who is another dreamer and my mentor, a friend, Dr. Tom Burns, and he has a very, very inspiring story that we all need to hear. I'm very honored and privileged and very excited and thrilled to have him in our podcast today. I have learned a lot of things from Tom, and he's a great, humble human being I've ever met in my life. Welcome to the show, Tom. Glad to have you here, sir.
Thanks, Sachin. What a nice introduction. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Tom, I know you recently went to India. How was the trip?
It was great. It was the first time we'd been there, and we did the tourist thing. So we went all over sort of that tourist triangle in northern India and saw the things you're supposed to see. Saw the Taj Mahal, which is actually much more impressive in person than one would think on pictures. But it was fantastic. I ate way too much, traveled hard, had a great time.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Guess what? I've never been to Taj Mahal myself. That was one of my bucket list.
It is impressive.
So that's great. So I would like to start with my show. We wanted to make sure that a little bio about Tom, and then we're gonna talk more about the topic I've chose today is why doctors don't get rich, and basically that's the reason I met Tom actually via LinkedIn, believe it or not, and I saw that he wrote a book called Why Doctors Don't Get Rich, and I immediately reached out to him. He responded, and that's now he's here today with me, and I really appreciate what you have done for me, especially.
Awesome. So, you never know what threads are going to connect us to people.
Yes. Thank you. So Tom Burns is an entrepreneur. He's a retired orthopedic surgeon and a physician for the United States ski team. He has over 25 years of real estate experience and has acquired or developed over $700 million of real estate locally and internationally. He is the co-founder and the principal of Presario Venture, a private real estate company focused on apartment development and private equity in Texas and other part of the country, Sunbelt area of the country. Dr. Burns is author of the book called Why Doctors Don't Get Rich, a best-selling personal finance book for those who want to live the life to the fullest. He is a sought-after speaker and a mentor and has been financially independent for over a decade. He is the founder of the Rich Life Mastermind, and actually I was one of the member of that Rich Life Mastermind. We're going to talk more about that. And he created to help people financial independence so that they can control their future and travel to exotic places with Tom. Again, one thing I want to mention Tom about, he's also a solid guitar player, which I have actually seen in my person. And he likes to hunt and has an exotic collection at his house of the different things I was privileged to see in person at his house last year. And thank you, Tom, again, to joining the show. And again, today's topic would be mostly talking about Tom's journey, mostly focus about why doctors don't get rich, passive income to create financial freedom. I would like to start today by saying I like the term, what he says about rich life, which is all about people, deals, and adventure. So with that, I would like to start my first question. Who is Tom Burns and why he is in this world?
Well, that's a big one. What is that? You could have led with what is the meaning of life, but so I am just a guy that's always trying to learn something. I love hanging around I love meeting other people, and I love traveling the world. So that's probably what's guided me the whole time in my life. I started early as an athlete. It's what I did. I was pretty good, but I always tell people there's levels of good, and I don't think anybody was
Sure.
ever going to see me on TV, but I played sports, enjoyed life, eventually ended up following that path where I was going to become a doc because I knew I wouldn't get paid to be an athlete. So I became a sports medicine surgeon so I could
Right.
hang out with athletes. But I'll tell you, Sachin, it's funny. Nobody's really ever asked the way you asked it. So for one reason or another, I always just wanted to have fun when I was going through life. And that's a choice, right?
Absolutely.
You can choose you can choose to be happy or sad no matter what the situation is. And I talked
Right.
about that with my wife to be. And then when she was my wife, that no matter what we were doing, we were going to have fun. And
Hmm.
we'll talk about that later, but that philosophy is real. It still pervades whatever I do. And that's what sort of vaulted me into, doing the things I did outside of medicine. So if I can meet somebody new or travel to a new place,
Hmm.
my bucket list is basically every country in the world. Don't know if I'll actually make that, but I'd love to try. Uh,
Sure.
and so
Hope
that
you have Nepal in the list.
Nepal's on the list. Absolutely. I'm trying to work out one of those base camp hikes, but I'm climbing Kilimanjaro this year. So I'll do base camp
Really.
maybe another year, but it's just, yeah, the world is huge and people are different and we don't realize what kind of a bubble we live in. And I love discovering the fact that there are a lot of other ways to live. There are a lot of other people out there. Everybody's got something to offer. Everybody knows something that I don't know. And that's just where I get my
Absolutely.
joy in life.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing. And actually, I agree with life without fun is definitely not good. So we like to have fun all the time, no matter what the situation is. I
Sure.
like that. Tom, so I want to go back to your childhood, getting back all the way to the childhood. What was your childhood dream? Basically when you're a child.
Oh my gosh. Well, first I was going to hit a home run in the bottom of the ninth inning in the World Series,
Uh huh.
and and I thought about catching passes in the Super Bowl, but this body style pretty much let me know I wasn't going to make it through doing that. And then
Right.
I picked up a tennis racket. So
Mm-hmm.
the dream was to play on the grass at Wimbledon. So I know that's
Wow.
pretty narrow, but they were all sports dreams.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So, and that's
So
just, and so that's mostly what it was. So when Providence let me know that I wasn't going to be a good enough athlete to do those things, I went on to something else. And that's when I became an orthopedic surgeon. So,
mhm.
and the dream wasn't to be the busiest orthopedic surgeon or busiest doctor in the world. The dream was to be the best one I could be and to experience
Sure.
life. That's all I wanted to
Sure.
do. So it was a tool to
Absolutely.
allow me to do the things I wanted to do, which was travel and meet
Sure.
new people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thanks. So my other question is for who and what inspires you and drives you to be productive every day?
So, golly, always the who's blank. I've got people. My family inspires me, and that sounds kind of goofy, but you do want to set a good example for your children.
Of
Um,
course.
and it's I like watching. There are certain people, and I don't know if they may be nameless, but people that just by watching their
Hmm.
actions have inspired me to do things. It's usually not the famous ones. I do pick a lot of stuff out. I read 1,000 books, and that's all inspiring. I love Dan
Sure.
Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy books. I preach those all the time. I should be on their staff because I must sell a lot of their books. But I think anybody that focuses out on
Hmm.
kind of what kind of value they can give and how they can help somebody else. Those are the kind of people I just feel it when I'm interacting with them, thinking maybe I should be a little better at focusing outwards because they overwhelm me with how
Yep.
generous they are and how much value they create. And these are just people I run into in everyday life. This is nobody you would know or anybody in the world would know. But I watch
Hmm.
these people. Some of these people I've watched over 30 years, and they've consistently just been givers and connectors. So that's the kind of people that impress me, because
Okay.
they're doing it for the sake of, that's in their DNA, or that's the right way to treat people. And, success tends to follow those people. So
Absolutely.
that's the kind of people that inspire me.
I agree. I agree. I guess we learn from everybody, and I get inspired by my kids too. They're all seven. My daughter is just 7 years old, and she's sometimes talks so many beautiful things, and I get inspired by what she's doing. So it's true.
Yeah, it's fun to see it. And sometimes maybe you see a little bit of yourself in there and think that, did I, because I've sometimes said I want to grow up and be like my kids because they've got such good qualities sometimes. But we never know if we
Absolutely.
instilled that or not. Hopefully we did. All right.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. So Tom, I wanted to go back to your journey again, back in when you become an orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah.
My question is, and also U.S. key team, why did you change from the doctor to outside the medicine? What led you to change that?
It was part of that philosophy I talked about, right? Talked about always
Hmm.
wanting to have fun. And, the corollary to that is I didn't necessarily want anybody telling me what to do. If I wanted
Hmm.
to go somewhere, I wanted to be able to do it. So, childhood was, we talked about child, we had a nice middle class upbringing. We never wanted for anything, but, we didn't take big vacations. We took like 2 vacations in my childhood. My dad was a cop. Uh,
Hmm.
so I'm super proud of him, and
Sure.
he protected presidents and stuff. And I just was learning how to have fun and wanted to be a good dad like him. And I got into orthopedics following the plan. If anybody listening to this is a physician, which probably a lot are, it's kind of a
Yep.
prescribed plan. You finish college and then you do 4 years of med school and then you do 3 to 7 years of residency and maybe an
Yep.
extra year or two after that. So I was on that plan. Uh, you know, Left the University of Texas, went to Southwestern Medical School, did the med school thing. We had a great time. Uh,
Yep.
Almost failed out of college because I partied too much, but made it to med school, got through that.
Sure.
I was in, and to answer your question, so I was in residency, orthopedic residencies, 5 years.
Hmm.
Uh, was probably in the middle of that residency program. By then, we had been to some of well, let me back up. When you're in
Sure.
residency, you're trained. We're trained under the apprenticeship model, just like
Hmm.
blacksmiths and plumbers, and throughout the centuries, right? We are
Exactly.
trained by the mentors who are the attending physicians who we're supposed to be 10, 20, 30 years in the future, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
So we've been to some of their houses. They all had nice houses, seemed to be making a fair amount of money. But as I watched these guys and gals, um, they weren't quite as happy as I had planned in my life to be. They were on their second or third marriage and couldn't hold down
Hmm.
marriages. They were working late at the hospitals
Hmm.
and getting there early. They were working very hard. Nothing wrong with hard work, but they were there a long time, complaining a lot
Hmm.
about not having control of their lives. Insurance companies were telling them what to do. And mind you, this was over 30 years ago when it wasn't near as bad as it is now.
Oh, I
Uh,
know.
they didn't have clinic managers telling them what to do. They didn't have corporations telling them to see more patients for less time, all that kind of stuff. These guys all mostly owned their own practices or were,
Hmm.
had cushy academic positions. So I always say I was either touched by God or just blind lucky. But at one point in the middle of residency, I looked at these guys and decided I didn't necessarily want their money if I had to have their life. They weren't as happy as I wanted to be. I didn't sign up for
Hmm.
that. So I needed to look for something else. I didn't know what that something else was. I had zero
Sure.
training in anything else except sports. So I started looking. I looked at a whole bunch of stuff, didn't have the time, experience, background, or money to do most of it. And
Yeah.
I landed on real estate. Part of the reason I landed on real estate is because real estate's really simple. It's just simple math, right? You
Hmm.
buy something for a certain amount of money, you let somebody else use it, they pay you to use it, and hopefully the money they pay you is enough to cover all your expenses and there's a little bit left over. I wanted to have the
Uh-huh.
leftovers so I could pay for my lifestyle. So that's
Sure.
where the decision was made. Uh, Started with education, and then when the time came, I just pretty much jumped in the water and started doing things. But that's when the
Sure.
decision was made. Was I was actually still in my training.
Hmm. So I guess one of the things I read in your book that you are the one of the couple of first person who have bought the book of Rich Dad and
Yeah,
Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki in the in the car wash. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's correct. Um, yeah,
Wow.
I think that's the only thing I'm known for. I don't have any other talents. I guess I can buy books, but yeah, I was by myself. Family was up in Dallas, and I was running errands. So my truck was dirty. I took it to the car wash place to get it washed. Handed him the
Yep.
car, walked inside, and was going to pay my bill. And truly, on the back cabinet, on the back shelf, there was a little stack of books with a hand painted sign that said "Book for Sale." I thought that was
Yep.
weird because this was a car wash, but it
Yeah.
was purple, it was gold, and I could see the word "rich" on it. And
Yeah.
and this was when I was practicing medicine. So and I started when I was in residency, so I was already reading stuff. By the way, I had been in the Amway Corporation, right? I was in multi-level marketing at Amway. Didn't make
Uh-huh.
much money doing that, but boy, did I learn how to read, and did I learn about personal development books. I learned a lot of
Sure.
stuff doing that. Anyway, so I was reading things like that. So I said, let me see the book. And it said, rich dad, poor dad, what the poor and middle class or what the rich teach their kids about money that the poor and middle class don't. Uh, I thought that was pretty
Definitely.
cocky. I thought anybody can say that. I want to read this book, right?
Uh-huh.
Uh, so I tossed it on. I went home. I tossed it on my desk drawer, my desk, and went about doing my errands. And literally at 11:30 at night, I was going to bed. Opened the book for the first time to the first page just to see what I was going to read one day. Kind of liked
Yep.
what I read a few more pages, sat down, kept reading. 4 hours later, I was finished with the book.
Wow.
Couldn't stop reading it. Uh,
Yeah.
Called a friend, said, I just read the best book I've ever read in my life. He said, yeah, right. And I gave it to him. He goes, wow, you're right. Uh, called the number on the inside cover of the book, the publisher, right?
Wow.
And expected to get a publisher to find out who this, unnamed. This was a, unnamed, unknown author. Nobody knew who Kiyosaki was, and confused him with
Absolutely.
Kawasaki all the time. We called the number, and the guy that answered was Robert Kiyosaki, and
Wow.
said, hey, I bought this book. What's the deal? He had sent over 2 dozen books to his buddy who owned the car wash. That's how it happened. He had sold no book.
Oh.
He had sold absolutely zero books. And
Oh
he
my
said,
God.
well, I sent 24 of them. We said, how many you got left? He goes, 976. He had printed only 1,000 books, self-published,
Mm-hmm.
designed those books to be a brochure to sell a game called Cash Flow. So
Yeah.
anyway, we
That's
flew out, met
amazing.
Kiyosaki. He gave me some more books. I felt bad, but he said, don't worry, nobody's buying them anyway. And I always laugh about that because it's like 44 million copies later. It's done pretty well. But
Yeah.
that
Absolutely.
was the first book ever bought. And I bought the rest of the 2 dozen, handed them out to
Mm-hmm.
friends. And then, 20 years later, I still had the first book. And so I gifted it. I gave it to Robert. And so it's now hanging in the Rich Dad offices. So that's kind
Wow.
of that story. And he and I have been friends for, since then. We've been friends for over 25 years. So that's that story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is beautiful, and books can change life. And it did to me also, Tom. I don't know, I told you this, but that same book I read, somehow I was looking at my Facebook and I saw that Rich Dad and Poor Dad. And I actually
Right.
read the book, and my mindset is completely changed, and a lot of 40 million people, I think, we saw the book. And it's so amazing that, the book can definitely change a life.
Books
So,
can.
anyways, yeah. Anyways, so let's talk about your few struggles. I mean, it's a big change for you from being a doctor, try to do something totally different, and you knew why you're doing this because of you saw the pain points in doctor's life. What were your struggles? I mean, initial days, and what are the few mistakes you've learned?
Sure. I just looked at them as necessary learning points, but it, I didn't know anything at first. So I just learned and learned. So part of the struggles were the good things, which is basically the mistakes I made because I learned lots of lessons from those mistakes. Some were small,
Mm-hmm.
some were a little bigger. Uh, I was given a keynote speech just about a week ago, and one of the questions was,
Okay.
gee, how'd you do this? How'd you find the time? And I said, look, that's
Yeah.
back then I was full time doctor, and I
Sure.
essentially burned the candle at both ends. So
Right.
I got lucky, so to speak, after 10 years of working really hard. So I
Mm-hmm.
I worked hard. I did. I did full practice. I was a young doctor. I was on call and I was doing all the things young docs do, and it was busy. And so in the evenings, if I could keep my eyes open, that's when I learned and affected my real estate. Weekends were obviously real estate time. I just burned it at both ends until there was, till it started producing a little bit of fruit. And as it did, I adjusted my doctor time down and my real estate time up. So that was one struggle, which was just part of the game.
Right.
Interestingly, back then the doctors in the world are much more informed now, and they're more informed and they're more motivated because the business has changed a lot in 30 years, and not for the positive as far as the doctors are concerned. But they would, I was told, hey, why do this? You don't need to do that. Just, take more call, work harder or whatever. So they didn't understand. That's fine. Actually, most of my investors were not doctors for the first 15 years of my career.
Okay.
I had some docs tell me, hey, you should focus on medicine. You'll be a better doctor if you focus on medicine. My answer to them was that I focused 100% on medicine when I was with patients or doing medicine. But when that switch turned off, I focused 100% on what I was doing. I just was working harder than my colleagues. So that was a big struggle. And one guy said, and then I started making it. And one guy said, well, you're making so much money in real estate. I think I'm going to refer my patients to the young guys because they need the money. So, that's that.
Yeah.
But, and the last thing, I ran into, you see people's stories. It looks like a Facebook post, right? It's a highlight reel of everything that went right. My progress, absolutely everything didn't go right. I ran into criminals. I can knock off 5 or 6 people that are either in jail, took their own lives, or have been raided by the FBI. Those people cost me time. They cost me money. I had to go to court. Never lost a court case. So that stuff's not fun. I had to foreclose on people. I ran a lot of my own properties for a while. I had management, but so there was all the typical struggles, and they still go on. There's always struggles, and that's where we learn our lessons.
Absolutely. I agree. Definitely, there's every day is challenge, but every day we can find the opportunity, from the challenges too. So I like that. Thank you for sharing. Absolutely. I wanted to go back to your, going forward for now you have, Presario Venture. And I wanted to know a little bit about why and how did you get started with that?
With Presario? Sure. Yeah. So I started early with a personal portfolio, and then a partner and I built a large medical office complex. I learned a lot about development and things like that then. So I was developing a pretty good portfolio. And so actually back in 2001, I was at an investment conference that Kiyosaki was putting on in Paradise Valley, Arizona, with Scottsdale, Phoenix. And for one reason or another, he told the audience that I was from Austin, Texas. At the break, somebody came up and said, hey, we're moving from California to Austin. Will you be one of our contacts? We don't know a lot of people in Austin. And there's a point to this story. That person came to town, started working in real estate. I started bumping into him a lot. I actually saw him orthopedically, that sort of thing. And over 5 or 6 years, we realized we had similar business plans, similar philosophies. We really liked each other. And we decided to start a company. And that is my current partner in Presario Ventures. So we started that back in 2000. Gosh, we started doing work together in 2005 or 6. Founded the first iteration of Presario in 2008 or 9, maybe earlier. And so that's the foundation. So my current partner's been partners for, close to 15 years. We've been friends for over 20 years. And we had experience in a lot of different parts of the real estate world. But back prior to the Great Recession, we thought that over the long run that apartments would probably have a pretty good run. Looks like that was a good guess.
Sure.
And so we decided to stick with apartments. And then for various reasons, we ended up cutting our teeth on apartment development. So we ended up developing a lot of properties. So we do some acquisitions, but we ended up doing development. So that's the genesis. We've grown. We have more employees now, but we try to stay a smaller shop and do just the right number of good projects each year.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the Presario venture is based in Austin, Texas, right?
Right. We're in Austin. We've got actually our physical office here in Austin, and most of our projects are in the state of Texas. We do have some in the Sun Belt now. We have a three-state portfolio we're working on, but yeah, we had other states involved. We divested of those. The state of Texas has given us plenty of work over the last 10 years, so
Absolutely.
it's plenty enough for us.
Yeah, I've been to Austin myself recently in your house. Actually, I was amazed to see how beautiful it is, and in Texas, I mean, it's hard to see the greenery, and I believe Austin is one of them. So I really love that.
Austin's a beautiful place. That's why we got so many people moving here. That's why half of California's here
Absolutely.
now.
Absolutely. So, Tom, regarding your book, the reason we met, actually, why doctors don't get rich, right?
Yep.
And how to everyone listening can create a freedom with passive income
Yep.
investing. My question to you is, why did you write the book? And if you can give some tips from the book, we're going to talk about a few things about a book, but you can start with why did you write a book?
Sure. No, it's Kiyosaki's fault. We were in his office one day and having lunch, and I asked him what his next book was going to be because he puts one out about every year or so, or at least he used to, right?
Right.
He told
Right.
me what it was. He looks at me and he goes, "You should write a book." I said, "No,
Oh, really?
I don't want to write a book." He goes, "No, you got some kind of a story. You should write a book." I said, "Ah." So I told him, I said, "Well, if you can do it, I can do it." Joking, of course. And I thought about it on the plane and thought, it's been a fun journey. Maybe I can write something useful. So
Yep.
I decided to write the book, and purely just to give hope and guidance to people that kind of wanted to do what, to
Sure.
give themselves some control in their lives. There was no other business plan, no ulterior motive, just wanted to write something good. And so I spent quite a long time doing it. It took me 2 years to do it because I wrote every word myself, and I was still practicing orthopedics. So it
Wow.
was evenings if I had the energy, weekends, skipped church a few times to write if I had some good ideas. But that's why I wrote it. And it was really
Sure.
a passion project. I learned so much. You learn a lot when you're writing a book. I learned
Absolutely.
I learned that a lot of physicians weren't near as happy in their practice as I was, so I was in a bit
Hmm.
of a bubble because my real estate had allowed me to produce that bubble. Uh,
Hmm.
so that's kind of where the mission was born. And so it's been a fun journey, but that's why I wrote it, to just try to help somebody that wanted a little bit of a push. Because I know my life has been altered by books that I've read, and I'm hoping mine helps some other people.
Yes, yes. So just to let you people who's listening or watching this, it's amazing book. I have read it. I continue to read again and again. There's so many golden nuggets there, and absolutely recommend everyone listening to at least read the book. And it's available in Kindle. And I don't know about Audible, but I
Yep,
think it's available in Kindle.
it's
So
print, Kindle, and Audible.
yes. So regarding the book, I think you defined about what is true wealth. I think I wanted to hear from you and how you define true wealth and the form of capital. I think you mentioned 8 different forms of capital, just have besides money and other material things. If you can
Yeah,
explore a little bit more about that.
you bet. You know, true wealth is true wealth is is really having whatever it takes to give you control of your time. And so the
Sure.
derivative of that is having something that produces the income that doesn't necessarily require your time to produce it. So, and
Right.
generally that falls into some sort of asset that produces you passive income. So if you've got enough
Exactly.
income coming in, whether you sleep, vacation, play with your kids, or work, then you got
Hmm.
choice of what to do next. And that choice could be to work more, or to work better, or really enjoy what you do for work, or it could be to
Hmm.
retire, create a cure for cancer, learn to play the guitar. Whatever you choose, that is a liberating feeling, and that's true wealth, when you are not worried about
Absolutely.
having enough money to cover your lifestyle.
Hmm. Sure, sure. Definitely. And you talk about these 8 capitals, forms of capital. I don't even remember all those, but I found this very interesting. Like people don't think about those things.
Yeah, and I'll forget some of them. And that's a book written by Chris Martenson and Adam Taggart, some friends of mine.
Sure.
I think it's called Prosper. Uh, but it's a good book. And if we think about it, so, and this is an extension of what is true wealth. So I talked about having the time and control, but we all know stories of those people that have lots of money but no friends, or
Absolutely.
people that even physicians that make a tremendous amount of active money, but they have no time. I had one the other day. I invited somebody to do something very costly for free, and he said, "I can't get off. I
Hmm.
just can't get off. I'm too busy in my job, and I have to ask 9 months in
Right.
advance to get time off." So you can have money but no time. You can have time and no money.
Hmm.
You can have money and time and no friends, no social
Yeah.
network. Um, so wealth is no fun if you can't share it with somebody. Uh,
Hmm.
so that's your human capital. Your social capital, your time capital, your financial capital. There's also your spiritual capital. If you're not grounded within yourself, if you don't kind of know who you are, or you don't have
Hmm.
some sort of power that you're looking to. This is not a religious comment. It's just something that grounds you, that keeps you centered. There's your human
Absolutely.
capital, Chris and Adam call it. That's physically. You could have a lot of money, a lot of time, and a bunch of friends, but be too sick to do anything, too unhealthy.
Uh-huh.
So we want to take care of that temple. We want to be as healthy as possible. We want to live as long as possible. Technology is going to let
Absolutely.
us live longer these days. So, man, what a great deal! Now we know how to make this wealth, and we can extend our lives maybe 20 or 30 years and enjoy it for longer. I can tell you,
Hmm.
the older you get, the wiser you get. I'm not saying I'm wise, but I'm a lot smarter than Tom Burns was 30 years ago. I'll tell you that. Uh,
Absolutely.
so there's a lot of that. Now I may have forgotten a few, and it's your network,
Well,
social capital. You should be able to ask friends. If you run into trouble, your friends will come to help you. You roll all that together, and that's a wonderful life. To quote a Jimmy Stewart movie.
absolutely. I love that because I also I broke down in three things, Tom. I don't know. I talked to you about this, but three things that's true. Well, is for me is like health is number one, no matter what, and that's the first. Being a doctor, I guess I'm a biased a little bit, but without health, I think we are nothing. And number two is family. Family is everything to me. Where I'm today is because my parents. And
Sure.
lastly, I consider is a freedom. Freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of relationship, and freedom of purpose in life. So if
Yep.
you have all those things, I think it's not only about money. So I think I really like the thing you have said in the book. It's very elaborated. If people should read and learn more about it.
That's good. And you
So
said
thank you
something
for
there. I really didn't mean to interrupt. You said something I really liked. You said the word purpose. A lot
sure.
of us need purpose, and some people, physicians, anybody, their whole goal is just to retire. Uh,
Uh huh.
but hopefully, there's a purpose behind that wanting to retire, because we all know stories of people that work a long, successful career, and then they retire, and then they've got nothing else to do, and you can only play golf so many
Absolutely.
times before you get sick of. Purpose will keep you engaged, and it'll keep you alive longer. Nothing better than a good purpose.
Absolutely. I agree with that totally, Tom. Now the most important part of this today's actually episode we should be talking. It's your rich life mastermind, and actually I was a part of the mastermind. I used to talk to Tom at least once a week. We had a great time. I learned so much things from him. I wanted to talk about the concept you have termed now. I was listening to one of the podcasts actually today from Mike Knowing, I think. You guys talk about leverage matrix. I wanted to listener to hear from you. You're the founder of the Rich Life Mastermind.
Yeah.
What do you guys do, and talk about that matrix? That would be
Oh,
great.
you bet, you bet. So the mastermind's one of those things that wasn't planned, and I'm sure I told you when you connected up. It was not part of a plan. But after the
Right.
book came out, so many people were calling. The book's in like 15 countries now, so people are calling from all
Oh
over.
wow!
Uh, and so,
Congratulations.
oh, thank you. Not certainly not due to any marketing I've done. I've got to be the worst marketer on the planet. But it's helping some folks, and people wanted to call, and I've always talked to people and helped them, and I still do that to this day. But so many were calling, it eventually got to where we had to sort of do something. We put the mastermind together, and
Right.
I just want it to be a place where people can grow faster than they would by themselves. As I told you, I'm a fan of connecting with other people. I am in $250,000 a year worth of masterminds and coaching programs myself. So
Wow.
those have been very helpful for me. And so I put it together, and I call it, you mentioned people, deals, and adventures. And
Yep.
it's number one, it's to help educate the folks on what they need to know. Now, that stuff you can get elsewhere, but it's pretty focused education on all sorts of asset classes. So you know the lingo, you know what to do, you know what's available, and you can
Absolutely.
use that knowledge to go make your passive income. And then
Yes.
we bring everybody together, right? I want a group of people together is worth more than the sum of its parts. Everybody's lifting everybody else up. Everybody knows something nobody else knows. We work together to help everybody get to where you want to go.
Yeah,
That's a good feeling. And then
it is.
the deal portion came from the request of the members. As I talked to people, hey, what did you like, or what would you like to see more of? They wanted as much education as possible, and they wanted more deal flow. So I bring in experts once a month. I bring in people that are the best at what they do to talk about
Yep.
various parts of financial life. And I bring them deal flow, not just for the sake of bringing. I bring them deals that either I've invested in for years or people I've known for a long period of time. And I do bring in some new folks that I've met. And so we evaluate
Sure.
those. They're sort of pre-vetted deals. And as a bonus, the people in the mastermind, they get better terms than the rest of the world gets. And so the terms they get typically pay for their fee to be in the mastermind. So, our
Right.
last deal paid over 30%, and they were able to pay for their mastermind fees just by investing in that deal. So it's been a good
Sure.
service. I'm learning every day. As I told everybody the first day that I don't necessarily know what I'm doing, and y'all are going to help me learn how to do this. And it's really become a passion for me. It's what I think about every day. So we all need to be part of something where we're all rowing the boat in the same direction.
Sure, sure. Definitely. And can you explain to me about this leverage matrix a little bit? And I was trying to learn yourself. I'm today actually in your website. There was something new. And if you can touch base a little bit about that.
Sure, sure. I'll see if I can remember here. But there's all kinds of leverage. People talk about having leverage. It can have that negative connotation. I've got leverage over you because I know some secret you don't want the world to know. That's the negative connotation. Real leverage is how you grow. It's how you grow a real estate portfolio. The simple terms, that's how you grow a real estate portfolio. Rarely does anybody have a big portfolio that they bought everything with cash. We use leverage.
Exactly.
We use the bank's money, and we use our money, we buy a property. Next step is we use the bank's money, plus we use other people's money for the down payment, and we grow. So that's the matrix. So really the steps are, if I can remember them right, first is no leverage, where you do nothing.
Sure.
You buy nothing, you do nothing, you keep your money in the bank, you lose value due to inflation, and you just don't go anywhere.
Absolutely.
Next is and it depends on what you're trying to leverage. Are you trying to leverage your money or your time? So I have two matrices. So we're talking about time here. So if you want to leverage your time, the next best way is to invest your money in somebody else's deal. They're going to do all the
Hmm.
work. You've got the money, they've got the time. They don't have enough money, but they do have the time.
Sure.
So that's a good marriage. That's a great leverage on your time. You have very little control. Next step
Exactly.
is to do your own deals. Or no, the next step, time wise, is probably to use your money and use the bank's money, and then put some of your time in and own your own property. Right?
Hmm.
Buy a duplex, buy a single family home, buy a small apartment complex. That's a little more of your time, a little more control as well. And then the last one is um, where you leverage you actually time wise. I've mixed up the matrices, but anyway, the other one is that you put together your
Sure.
own deals. You actually put a lot of time into these, but you use other people's money, which is
Yeah.
your investors. You use other people's money, which is the bank's money, but you put in
Yep.
all the work and you make all those other people money. So I mix the two matrices together, but there's different ways to go. That's the best leveraging of your money, is to do the work, but you do put in time. There's a lot more responsibility, a lot more work. The rewards are a lot bigger.
Sure. Absolutely.
There are two. There's a time leverage matrix and a money leverage matrix. I just mixed the two of them up, so I'm proud that I just
No, no
confused
worries.
our listeners.
It's basically, I think the concept I like about it when I was reading today, and I think there's about a control and basically that's the biggest difference I thought, and leveraging the money, which is others people's money. I call it OPM, and
Yep.
which is the best part of the quadrant. I think you mentioned four quadrant there,
Yep.
and the last quadrant is the one I wanted to be in. and that's one of the reasons I joined the mastermind. And I've got so much information, resources, and where I'm today actually is one of the reasons is because of you.
Okay.
and and thank you for doing this for me.
Oh, you bet.
So I'm trying to talk more about your adventure now. I mean, when is your next? I got an email a couple of days ago about your next event with. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, you bet. So we have, so as part of the mastermind, we have at least 2 live events every year.
Hmm.
So this was in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we're at a nice resort. And I got Robert Kiyosaki, Ken McElroy, and Tom Wheelwright are all going to speak on one day.
Wow.
We have a Nashville musician who's actually going to run through and entertain actually through the entire process. So
And this is only for the inner circle member, right?
this is for inner circle members, although we have a limited number of sit-in seats.
Okay.
So, and if anybody's interested, golly, I'm not a salesperson, but if anybody's interested, go to rich.life/Dan
Sure.
and just tell them you're interested in a sit-in seat. And what that is that we have a few seats where people can come and actually not be part of the mastermind, but be part of the event. And should they choose to join the mastermind afterwards, we apply that money to their membership fee. So that's kind of a good deal. And that's happened each of our events. People have come. So it's free to our members. And, so we're going to have a power packed first day. Second day, we're going to have a national corporate trainer do some group work with us. And then that's just in the morning. In the afternoon, we're going out in the desert to go have some fun. That's the adventure part. So
Nice.
it should be a really good time.
Nice. Absolutely. I wanted to talk about here. That's a beautiful thing, and I was hoping to come there too to meet Robert Kiyosaki, but I had another commitment already. That's the reason I was not able to make it. It's the same date I think you had, May 10. I think that's the date. But anyways, I want to talk about your adventure a little bit. I know we're towards the end of the show. I really want to hear from you. What kind of adventure like you like to do? And I know you have a very exotic collection in your house, was I was lucky to see. And if you can share a little bit of 1 or 2 memories that you can share with our listener, that'd be great.
Yeah, golly, I just, I love to travel. So for better or worse, I do like to hunt. And so I've been every country in sub-Saharan Africa. And the reason I go is because when you do that, you can go places that nobody else goes. I liked it so much. I bought a ranch in Africa that I owned for 10 years.
Wow.
That's been fun. So I had a KDX 200 Yamaha motorcycle there, and we would ride the hills and dirt bike ride all over the ranch. So that was fun.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, not a very good dirt bike rider, but I made it. Didn't fall too much. So that was really fun. So I love being in Africa. I like being out in the middle of nowhere, particularly in places that most people will never go. There is some cost to it. Thank goodness for the real estate. And it takes some time to get over there. Thank goodness to the real estate. And so I've been able to go do that. I've gone up into the Yukon and Alaska and northern British Columbia. I like being up in the mountains. I hike and mountain bike ride at my house in the mountains. I have one here and one in the mountains. So that's my morning workout, is to ride up a mountain, sit up there and check emails and ride back down. I've been at 15,000 feet in the Pamir Mountains in Tajikistan, freezing and looking for things and walking around and going through houses where they cook with, yak dung and things like that. As you know, I just went to India. I'm climbing Kilimanjaro this year. It's been one of the things on my list, but it's also, I'm going with a group. It's a leadership opportunity. So We're going to do some mission work.
You should definitely go to Nepal.
And I want to go to Nepal. No, I'm waiting on Nepal. You're the one that's going to take me there. I'm going with
absolutely. It will be an honor.
So yeah, I just like to go places. I think Egypt and Southeast Asia are on the blocks for next. And then sometimes business takes me to cool places. Dubai and places like that. So, that's my. I'll do anything.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that, Tom. And so, my other question is, what is your dream now?
That is a great question. You know, grandkids is probably one. There's some things we can control in life, and some things not, right? So
Of course.
I don't have grandkids yet, and I pretty much can't do anything about that. So I'll wait for that. So instead, I have two golden doodles, or I'm about to. So that would be one. I would very
That's
much,
beautiful.
yeah, they're cool little dogs, but I would very much like to be a grandfather. Um,
Hmm.
I like to travel, and I would like to travel private. I've done that a number of times. I don't yet have my
Hmm.
own plane. That's my one concrete, thing that I would like to have, and I don't know if that's ever going to make
You
sense.
should plan.
A plane, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
That's me being transparent. That it'd be awesome to have one, but for now, it's me and Southwest Airlines. So, but yeah. And so, other than that, it's to it's to live as long as possible, experience as much as possible. I took up tennis again at 30 years after I
Really?
used to play. So I just want to
Sure.
meet people, do things, see the world, and hopefully take my family and friends with me when I do it. That's a full life for me, and I'm pretty blessed with the one I have now. It's not without problems, but
Definitely.
I just want to live it as long as possible because I think it's a gift.
Sure. Definitely. Definitely. I forgot to mention that you have played tennis with Richard Branson himself, right?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
he's the
That
guy.
must be amazing.
Well, the tennis itself was, I mean, I was nice to him, but he's a phenomenal guy. He's in great shape. And it was because of a trip to his house in the Virgin Islands that got me back to playing tennis. So
Yeah.
that's what,
Wow.
after 30 years of not touching a racket hardly, that got me back in. So now I've got something
Sure.
that I'm not as good now as I used to be, of course. And so it's giving
Yeah.
me a challenge to work on, physical challenge. So that's really fun. So
Yes.
thanks to
Yes.
Richard, I'm back on the tennis court.
That's good. That's good. So, Tom, this is another question I ask all my guests. So, so what is your biggest win in your life, and how you define success?
I mean, it's the two kids that I just spent time with this weekend. It's my biggest win. And it's nice when I have adult kids that are older probably than some people listening to this podcast. But
Same here.
all four of us were sitting around the table playing a game the other day. That's success to me. It was awesome. Uh, and so, that's my biggest win. And I forgot what's the other half of the question?
So, how you define success?
Well, is golly, probably success in all those eight forms of capital, but really, pretty much success is having, having raised good, productive, well adjusted kids, which probably
Hmm.
wouldn't define me, but hopefully the kids are well adjusted and productive. And then having the time to experience life. I think you're
Hmm.
successful if you can experience life, and that requires some of the monetary things that we talked about. Um, I think seeing what the world has to offer and being able to do that is the pinnacle of success. And then
Sure.
contributing and creating value. That's I did kind of leave that off. If you can. I'm not huge on legacy. I'm one for contribution now. I could really care less what people think of me when I'm gone, or
Hmm.
almost now. I just want to make sure that you do some kind of good in the world. God's been really good to me, so passing it on and being able to do that through the success I was blessed with, I think that makes for a pretty successful life.
Sure. Sure. That's beautiful, and I thank you for very much for sharing that. And contribution is definitely part of what makes you happy. Ultimately,
You bet.
And my last question for today, I know it's been almost 45 minutes here, but where people can find you, and what is the one thing you want to share before you leave?
Okay. Well, you can just go to rich.life. In fact, go to
Mhm.
rich.life/toolkit and then get that
Mhm.
leverage matrix you talked about.
Sure.
So that's free. Just, you can download it. That's just sort of my gift to everybody. And,
Thank you.
just enjoy life and don't quit. That's my simplest advice. Persistence is probably the best investment hack in the world. Time will make you look smart, make a good deal look great, make a bad deal look good. Just don't quit.
Uh-huh.
Enjoy the journey and enjoy life while you're doing it. That's why we're here. Don't be caught up in anxiety about not making it yet, whatever your version of making it is. Just enjoy the journey and put one foot in front of the other every day. It will happen. Compounding will get you to where you want to go.
Absolutely, I totally agree because I am the example too. And this country, United States of America, is the place you just have to have a dream, and exactly you said, don't quit. As long
Right.
as you do that, I think anything will be possible.
And
Guess what? We are towards the end of the show today. Tom, you've been blessing to me. I really appreciate what you have done. Thank you for doing this, and everyone who is listening today or watching this, I really appreciate if you can subscribe or like and share with your friends. There's so much to learn. And again, thank you for your time, Tom. Thank you very much.
thanks, Sachin.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Dream Big and Think Different. We hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to subscribe to our show so you don't miss any gold nuggets. And we'd appreciate it if you could rate and leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, and other platforms. Until next time.